Picture this. You're at a coffee shop, and there's this person sitting alone in the corner. They're not on their phone, not reading a book. They're just observing. They notice when the barista looks stressed, when the couple at table 3 starts arguing, when the elderly man drops his napkin. They seem to absorb everything around them like some kind of human antenna. Then you strike up a conversation, and bim, they're incredible. They understand you in ways that feel almost supernatural. They pick up on things you didn't even know you were communicating. But when you try to understand them, it's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Welcome to the world of the INFJ, the rarest personality type on the planet, making up less than 2% of the population. And honestly, there's a damn good reason they're so rare, because understanding them isn't just challenging. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded while riding a unicycle. Today, we're going on a deep dive into the mysterious mind of the INFJ. We're talking about people who can read your soul but remain complete mysteries themselves. So grab your detective hat, because we're about to unpack one of psychology's greatest enigmas. 1. The human mood ring living in emotional technicolor. Imagine if you could physically feel other people's emotions the way you feel temperature changes. That's what it's like being an INFJ. They don't just notice when someone's upset. They literally absorb that emotion into their own nervous system. Here's where it gets wild. An INFJ can walk into a room and instantly know that Sarah from accounting is having relationship problems, that Mike from IT is stressed about his mortgage, and that the receptionist is secretly excited about something. They're not mind readers. They're emotion readers, and they can't turn it off. But this superpower comes with a massive downside. By the end of the day, an INFJ is carrying around an emotional cocktail that would make a bartender jealous. They've got Linda's anxiety mixed with Tom's excitement, seasoned with their mother's disappointment from a phone call last week, and garnished with the general stress of everyone they encountered on public transport. Now imagine trying to sort out which emotions are actually yours. It's like trying to separate milk from coffee after you've already stirred them together. This is why INFJs can seem moody or unpredictable. They're not just dealing with their own emotional weather, they're experiencing a whole emotional climate system. And here's the kicker. Most people have no idea this is happening. They see an INFJ acting withdrawn or sensitive and think, what's wrong with them? When really, the INFJ is just trying to process the emotional equivalent of a 3-course meal while everyone else had a light snack. 2. The paradox factory living contradictions that actually make sense. INFJs are walking, talking paradoxes, and I mean that in the most fascinating way possible. They're like optical illusions in human form. Depending on how you look at them, you see completely different things. Get this. An INFJ will cancel plans because they're too tired to socialize, then spend 4 hours on the phone helping a friend through a crisis. They'll cry during a commercial about a lost dog but remain eerily calm during actual emergencies. They'll remember exactly how you like your coffee from 6 months ago but forget to eat lunch 3 days in a row. These aren't signs of instability. They're features, not bugs. INFJs operate on multiple levels simultaneously. They have their logical brain, their emotional brain, their intuitive brain, and their values-based brain all running different programs at the same time. It's like they're a computer running 4 different operating systems, and sometimes they conflict with each other. Think of it this way. Most people are like single-story houses. What you see is what you get. INFJs are like those crazy MC Escher buildings with staircases that go in impossible directions. They make perfect sense from the inside, but from the outside, you're wondering how the hell the physics even work. This is why you can't predict an INFJ's behavior based on past patterns. Just because they loved that party last week doesn't mean they'll want to go to this week's gathering. Their decision-making process involves variables that most people don't even consider. 3. The perfectionist's prison when good enough never is. INFJs have a relationship with perfectionism that's more complex than a Christopher Nolan movie. They don't just want things to be perfect. They need them to align with some internal vision that's so detailed and specific, it would make an architect weep. But here's where it gets twisted. Their perfectionism isn't about impressing others. It's about this burning need for authenticity and meaning. An INFJ would rather produce one genuinely meaningful piece of work than 10 things that are technically perfect but soulless. Picture this scenario. An INFJ spends 3 weeks writing a single email because they're trying to find the exact right words to convey not just the information, but the feeling, the intention, the respect for the recipient, and the perfect balance of professional and personal. Meanwhile, everyone else is wondering why it's taking so long to get a simple response. This perfectionist paralysis extends to everything they do. They'll rewrite a text message 17 times, spend hours choosing the perfect gift, or avoid starting a project because they can't see how to make it exactly right in their mind. And the cruel irony? INFJs are often incredibly talented and capable, but their perfectionism makes them feel like everything they produce is garbage. They see all the flaws, all the ways it could be better, all the nuances they couldn't quite capture. It's like being a master chef who can only taste what's wrong with the dish. 4. The intuitive time travelers living 3 steps ahead. If most people's minds are like cars driving down the highway, INFJs' minds are like helicopters flying overhead. They can see the traffic jam 20 miles ahead, the detour that would save time, and the scenic route that nobody else knows about. INFJs don't just think about what's happening now. They're simultaneously processing what led to this moment, what it means for the future, and how it fits into the bigger picture of everything. They're like human chess masters who can see 15 moves ahead, except the game they're playing is life, and the pieces keep changing the rules. This is why INFJs often seem to know things before they happen. They're not psychic. They're just pattern recognition experts with PhD-level degrees in reading between the lines. They noticed that their friend's relationship was headed for trouble 6 months before the breakup, not because they can see the future, but because they picked up on subtle changes in communication patterns that everyone else missed. But this gift comes with a curse. Living in the future means missing the present. An INFJ might appear distracted during a conversation because part of their brain is already 3 conversations ahead, thinking about how this information will affect next week's decision or next month's plans. It also means they make decisions that seem weird or impractical to others. They might quit a good job because they can see it leading to burnout in 2 years, or invest time in a relationship that looks hopeless because they can see its potential. To everyone else, it looks like poor judgment. To the INFJ, it's strategic thinking. 5. The social shapeshifters' authentic adaptation. Here's something that'll mess with your mind. INFJs are simultaneously the most authentic and the most adaptable people you'll meet. They're like social shapeshifters who can adjust their energy to match any situation, but they're doing it while maintaining their core self. Think of it like this. Most people have one personality that they wear in all situations, like a favorite outfit. INFJs have a whole wardrobe of authentic selves. They're not being fake when they're different with different people. They're just emphasizing different aspects of their multifaceted personality. With their work colleagues, they might be the thoughtful, reliable team member who always has insightful questions. With their best friend, they might be the goofy, conspiracy-theorizing weirdo who makes up songs about their cat. With their family, they might be the responsible one who remembers everyone's birthdays and mediates arguments. All of these versions are real. They're just different facets of the same complex gem. But this adaptability comes at a cost. After a day of being different versions of themselves, INFJs often feel exhausted and confused about who they really are. They might look in the mirror and wonder which version is the real them, not realizing that they all are. This is why INFJs need so much alone time, not just to recharge their social batteries, but to integrate all these different aspects of themselves back into one cohesive person. It's like they need time to organize their personality filing system after a busy day of pulling out different folders. 6. The Selective vault system intimacy levels explained. INFJs have the most fascinating approach to sharing personal information. Imagine their inner world as a high-security facility with different clearance levels. Some information is in the lobby, anyone can access it. Some is behind locked doors that only trusted friends have keys to. And some is in a vault so deep that even they sometimes forget it exists. But here's the twist. The security clearance system makes no logical sense to anyone else. An INFJ might tell a casual acquaintance about their deepest fears regarding climate change, but keep their weekend plans completely secret from their best friend. They'll share their philosophical thoughts on the meaning of life but deflect when asked about their favorite movie. It's not about trust levels. It's about relevance and emotional significance. To an INFJ, their thoughts about existential questions feel more authentically them than their daily routine. They'll share what feels meaningful and keep what feels mundane private, even if everyone else thinks they've got it backwards. This creates these weird, intimate moments where you feel incredibly close to an INFJ because they've shared something profound, but then you realize you don't know basic facts about their life. It's like being invited into the inner sanctum of their soul but not knowing what they had for breakfast. And don't even get me started on their relationship with secrets. INFJs are like Fort Knox when it comes to other people's secrets. They'll take your confidences to the grave. But their own secrets, they're not hiding them maliciously. They just don't occur to them to share unless directly asked, and sometimes not even then. 7. The energy ecosystem complex fuel requirements. Understanding an INFJ's energy system is like trying to understand a hybrid car that runs on solar power, emotions, creativity, and the alignment of the planets. Traditional energy management rules don't apply here. An INFJ might bounce back from a challenging work project but be completely drained by a trip to the grocery store. They might feel energized after a deep conversation about philosophy but exhausted after small talk at a networking event. They could be ready to conquer the world after some alone time in nature but feel like they need a week-long recovery after a family dinner. Their energy isn't just about being introverted or extrovert. It's about meaning, authenticity, and emotional resonance. Activities that align with their values and allow for genuine connection feel energizing, even if they're socially demanding. Activities that feel superficial or meaningless are energy vampires, even if they're technically relaxing. And here's what really confuses people. INFJs can't always predict what will drain them. They might think they're up for a social event, then suddenly hit a wall halfway through and need to escape immediately. They're not being dramatic or antisocial. Their energy system just operates on different principles than most people's. It's like they're running on premium fuel in a world full of regular gas stations. They need high-quality, meaningful interactions to keep running, but those aren't always available when they need them. 8. The prophetic pattern readers seeing what others miss. INFJs have this almost supernatural ability to see patterns and connections that others miss entirely. They're like human crystal balls, except instead of magic, they're using advanced pattern recognition and intuitive processing that would make AI developers jealous. They'll meet someone and immediately sense that this person is going through a major life transition, not because of anything obvious, but because of tiny micro-expressions, word choices, and energy shifts that others don't even register. They'll predict that a seemingly stable couple is headed for problems based on subtle changes in how they interact at social gatherings. But here's the frustrating part. They can't always explain how they know these things. Their brain processes information in ways that bypass conscious analysis. It's like having a supercomputer that gives you the right answers but doesn't show its work. This makes INFJs seem almost psychic to some people and completely unreliable to others. When their predictions come true, people are amazed. When they can't explain their reasoning, people dismiss them as being overly dramatic or reading too much into things. The truth is, INFJs are constantly processing massive amounts of subtle information that others filter out as noise. They're not magical. They're just operating with a different kind of intelligence that our society doesn't always value or understand. 9. The helper's paradox, giving what they can't receive. Here's one of the most heartbreaking things about INFJs. They're incredibly skilled at helping others, but absolutely terrible at accepting help themselves. They can spot when someone needs support from across a crowded room and will move mountains to provide it. But when they're the ones struggling, radio silence. It's not pride or stubbornness. It's a complex mix of factors. First, they're so used to being the strong, reliable ones that admitting they need help feels like letting everyone down. Second, their needs are often so complex and nuanced that they struggle to articulate them. Third, they've been disappointed so many times by people who offer help but don't follow through that they've learned to be self-reliant. Plus, INFJs often feel guilty about having needs at all. They see all the suffering in the world and think their problems are insignificant by comparison. They'll spend hours helping a friend through a minor issue while ignoring their own major problems because they don't feel worthy of the same care they freely give to others. This creates relationships where the INFJ is always giving and rarely receiving, which eventually leads to burnout and resentment, though they'll probably blame themselves for not giving enough rather than recognizing the imbalance. 10. The overthinking Olympics mental gymnastics champions. If overthinking were a competitive sport, INFJs would hold every world record. These are people who can turn a simple "how are you" into a philosophical examination of the nature of human connection and social conventions. Their minds are like browsers with 47 tabs open, 3 of which are playing music, 5 are running complex calculations, and the rest are exploring tangentially related topics that somehow all connect to each other. They can't just think about one thing. Everything is connected to everything else in their mental universe. A typical INFJ thought process might go, "They said they were fine, but their tone was slightly off," which reminds me of how my sister sounded last week when she was having problems with her boss, which makes me wonder if work stress affects people's vocal patterns, which leads me to think about how much we communicate non-verbally, which reminds me that I should call my grandmother because she probably feels lonely, which makes me think about aging and mortality, which connects to that article. I read about climate change, and that's just from one casual interaction. This mental hyperactivity isn't always obvious from the outside. INFJs have learned to function while their minds are running marathons in the background. They might seem perfectly normal in conversation while internally writing dissertations on the deeper meaning of everything being discussed. 11. The authenticity detectors built-in BS sensors. INFJs come equipped with authenticity detectors that are more sensitive than smoke alarms. They can sense insincerity, manipulation, and fake energy from miles away. It's like they have a sixth sense for anything that isn't genuine. This isn't judgment. It's more like having a severe allergic reaction to artificial flavoring. They physically cannot tolerate environments or relationships that feel fake or superficial. It makes them uncomfortable on a cellular level. The problem is, modern society is built on a certain amount of social lubrication. Small talk, polite lies, conventional pleasantries. INFJs struggle in these environments not because they're antisocial, but because the lack of authenticity is genuinely painful for them. They'd rather have one real conversation about something that matters than spend an entire evening making surface-level chit-chat. This can make them seem snobbish or difficult, but really, they're just wired to crave depth and meaning in all their interactions. And here's the twist: INFJs sometimes struggle with their own authenticity. Because they're so adaptable and empathetic, they can lose touch with their true selves. They might find themselves going along with others' expectations and then feel terrible about not being authentic. It's like their BS detector works on everyone except themselves. 12. The future architects living in tomorrow. While most people are dealing with today's problems, INFJs are already designing solutions for problems that might exist 5 years from now. They live in the future more than the present, constantly thinking about long-term consequences and potential outcomes. This forward-thinking approach is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it makes them incredible strategic thinkers and planners. They can see potential problems before they become real problems and prepare accordingly. On the other hand, it means they're often stressed about things that haven't happened yet and might never happen. An INFJ might turn down a great job opportunity because they can see how it might lead to burnout in 3 years. They might end a relationship that seems fine because they can see fundamental incompatibilities that will cause problems down the road. To others, these decisions seem impulsive or illogical. To the INFJ, they're carefully considered choices based on long-term projections. This future focus also means they often feel out of sync with everyone else. While their friends are focused on weekend plans, the INFJ is thinking about career trajectories. While others are enjoying the moment, the INFJ is calculating potential consequences. It's like they're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. They're thinking several moves ahead, but sometimes they miss the simple moves that are right in front of them. 13. The boundary blur flexible limits. INFJs have the most complex relationship with boundaries of any personality type. They have incredibly strong boundaries in some areas and virtually no boundaries in others, often in ways that seem contradictory to outsiders. They'll fiercely protect their alone time and personal values but completely merge with their loved ones' emotional experiences. They'll say no to social events without hesitation but yes to helping friends even when they're completely overwhelmed. They'll guard their physical space like Fort Knox, but open their hearts completely to people they trust. It's like they have different types of boundaries for different aspects of their lives. Emotional boundaries, energy boundaries, time boundaries, physical boundaries, and they all operate according to different rules. What they will and won't tolerate depends entirely on the context and the people involved. This can be incredibly confusing for the people in their lives. You might think you understand an INFJ's limits, only to discover that what applies in one situation doesn't apply in another. They're not being inconsistent. They're just operating with a more nuanced boundary system than most people use. 14. The meaning-making machines. Everything must matter. For INFJs, life without meaning is like food without flavor, technically sustaining but ultimately unsatisfying. They need their activities, relationships, and experiences to connect to something larger than themselves. They can't just go through the motions. Everything has to serve a purpose. This need for meaning extends to everything they do. They can't just have a job, they need a calling. They can't just make small talk. They need meaningful conversations. They can't just buy things. Their purchases need to align with their values. They can't just exist. They need to feel like they're making a difference. This can make them seem intense or high maintenance, but really, they're just wired differently. For most people, meaning is a nice bonus. For INFJs, it's a basic requirement for psychological survival. When INFJs can't find meaning in their current situation, they don't just get bored, they get depressed. They'll completely lose motivation and energy when they feel like their life lacks purpose or direction. It's not laziness. It's like trying to run a car without fuel. Conclusion: embracing the beautiful complexity. Understanding an INFJ is like trying to appreciate a symphony while everyone else is listening to individual instruments. You have to step back, adjust your perspective, and accept that you're dealing with something more complex and nuanced than your typical human experience. INFJs aren't difficult to understand because they want to be mysterious or special. They're difficult to understand because they experience life in high definition while most of us are watching in standard resolution. They feel more deeply, see more connections, think more complexly, and need more meaning than the average person. The key to understanding INFJs isn't learning to decode them like some kind of human puzzle. It's accepting that they operate on a different frequency and learning to appreciate the unique perspective they bring to your life. If you have an INFJ in your life, consider yourself lucky. You're dealing with someone who will understand you better than you understand yourself, who will care about your problems as if they were their own, and who will see potential in you that you didn't even know existed. Yes, they're complicated. Yes, they're sometimes confusing. Yes, they need more patience and understanding than your average person. But here's what you get in return: depth, authenticity, genuine care, incredible insights, and a relationship that operates on a level most people never experience. INFJs aren't trying to be difficult. They're trying to be authentic in a world that often rewards superficiality. They're trying to create meaning in a world that often settles for mediocrity. They're trying to connect genuinely in a world full of artificial relationships. So the next time your INFJ friend cancels plans to recharge, spends an hour explaining why a simple decision is actually complex, or seems to understand you better than you understand yourself, remember, you're not dealing with someone who's trying to be difficult. You're dealing with someone who experiences the world in full color while most of us see in black and white. And honestly, that's something worth celebrating, even if it takes a PhD in psychology to fully understand.